Is this a story about love or about revenge? About error of judgment or about delayed judgment? Shakespeare builds the play not around events alone, but around relationships, family ties, loyalty, betrayal, and revenge. Stay with me till the end of this video as I give you the story of one of the most popular yet most misunderstood plays by William Shakespeare, the story of Hamlet. At the center of the play is, of course, the character Hamlet. He is the Prince of Denmark and a very educated person studying at the University of Wittenberg. When the play opens, we see that his father, King Hamlet, is dead and that his mother, Queen Gertrude, is married to Hamlet's uncle Claudius, who has now become the King of Denmark. So, the most important family in focus is Hamlet, his uncle King Claudius, and his mother Gertrude. Other than the royal family, we have the Polonius family. Polonius is a court official who believes in surveillance and control. He is an aged man, mostly spies on people, and demands obedience from his two children, Ophelia and Laertes. Now, this Ophelia is also the love interest of our Prince Hamlet, at least when the play begins. They are in a romantic relationship, which is, of course, not approved of by Polonius. The other characters in this play include Hamlet's friends, among whom the most important one is Horatio. Horatio is calm, philosophical, rational. In fact, he is the one who's going to tell us the story of Hamlet because he's the only one who survives the play. Other than Horatio, we have two other comparatively minor characters called Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, who appear as Hamlet's friends but end up being spy on Hamlet, and then we'll see what happens to them. Other than these characters, we have the character of Fortinbras, who is like an external parallel to Hamlet. His father is also dead, but he is different from Hamlet. So now that we have a preliminary idea about the major characters in the play, let me take you to the story. The play is set in Denmark, where King Hamlet has died suddenly. His brother Claudius has married the Queen Gertrude. Prince Hamlet, back from his university, is in deep mourning and sadness, brooding over his father's death and quite disturbed by his mother's hasty remarriage. Now, in this situation, something supernatural takes place. The ghost of the late King Hamlet appears. The ghost appears first to some night guards and then they inform Hamlet, who comes to the place where the ghost comes and meets him. From his interaction with the ghost, Hamlet gets to understand that Claudius had murdered King Hamlet by pouring poison into his ear. It was designed to look like a natural death, and Hamlet, the son, must take revenge. Now, this revelation places Hamlet in a moral crisis. He, being an educated person, is quite confused whether the ghost is really his father's voice or some demon to deceive him. He knows that he must act, but he waits. So he decides to put on a peculiar disposition so that people may consider him as a mad person. This, he thought, would help him hide his true intentions from people and at the same time observe Claudius and others under the guise of madness. However, as the play progresses, it becomes difficult to separate his madness from his genuine emotional disturbance. That's a different thing altogether. Anyways, he first begins to show his sudden mood changes, even emotional cruelty in his dealings with Ophelia. Remember, I had told you that Ophelia was Hamlet's love interest in the beginning of the play. We suddenly see him being quite cruel to Ophelia rejecting her totally, driving her away from him. And somehow we begin to understand that his madness is probably now getting more and more connected to his inner conflicts. Polonius, who learns about Ophelia's romantic connection with Hamlet, is not very happy about it, and he wants Ophelia to stop meeting him. And Ophelia, being a very obedient child, she obeys her father, and that aggravates Hamlet even more. Now, Polonius, being a court official, always wanted the approval of the present king, King Claudius, and he rather tries to use Ophelia as a spy on Hamlet because he is quite suspicious that Macbeth is up to something. Now, Hamlet wanted some validation of his suspicion, so he plans to arrange a performance, a play that would test King Claudius. So, in that play, the storyline is that a king is murdered by his brother, and the queen quickly remarries the murderer. As Claudius watches the play, he becomes visibly disturbed. In fact, he stops the performance and leaves the place. So that becomes kind of a turning point where Hamlet gets sort of a confirmation of Claudius's guilt. After the play, Claudius goes away, and Hamlet's first impulse is to get his revenge. But when he goes, he sees that Claudius is praying, and he thinks that if I kill Claudius right now, maybe his sins will be forgiven. My father was killed when he didn't even know that he was about to be killed. He was not in a position to seek any redemption. He was in a garden having a good time, enjoying the lustful life. So my father got a death where he didn't have the chance to balance his sins. But if I kill Claudius now that he's praying, maybe he'll go straight up to heaven. So will that be revenge even? Won't that be a favor to him? So Hamlet doesn't kill Claudius when he very well could have managed to do that easily. He then confronts his mother in her chamber. He is torn from inside. One part of him confused whether his mother was at all involved in the whole thing or not. One part of him hating her, even if she was not involved. And while he was speaking to his mother in her chamber, he notices that the curtain is having a small movement as if somebody is hiding behind it. He thought Claudius is probably spying. So he stabs at the curtain, and it was Polonius who was actually hiding there, and he is killed right there. So Hamlet acts, but it's misdirected. And two things happen. One is Hamlet, who is an educated person, bothered about things like morality, ethics, he ends up killing a man who hasn't committed a murder. So it's like he has killed an innocent man in that sense. And secondly, it was Ophelia's father who was killed. And this makes Ophelia quite unstable in her mind. She feels betrayed. She sings songs about love, death, betrayal. And it's like everybody is turning mad in the play. And we have different kinds of madness. Hamlet's madness, intellectual madness. He speaks intelligent things. Ophelia's madness, the feminine madness. Well, it's like reality is too much for these people, for these characters to take. And Ophelia dies. She drowns. Whether it's an accident or she drowns herself, we don't know. But whether accident or not, her brother Laertes takes the whole thing to heart. He has lost his father, he has lost his sister, and he has to have his revenge. Claudius is clever enough to utilize this situation and this anger. So he provokes Laertes further. Before this, Claudius had tried to kill Prince Hamlet in a different way. He was sent to England, but Hamlet narrowly escapes death. In fact, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, in Hamlet's place, face the consequences. After that episode, Hamlet returns to Denmark. He is a bit changed now, calmer, and he enters a graveyard. In that graveyard, two grave diggers are digging a grave. As they make humorous comments and talk casually about death, Hamlet and we as audience begin to realize that death is an inevitable, a very ordinary experience. At this point, a funeral procession enters the graveyard, and Hamlet realizes that it's Ophelia's. So that grave was actually being dug for Ophelia. This unsettles him somehow. Laertes, Ophelia's brother, is also present there. He is expressing his sorrow, and then Laertes actually leaps into the grave. Hamlet also comes out of his hiding spot, and he also leaps into the grave and like confronts Laertes. So now you can understand the situation here. They struggle physically, exchange angry words. And after this altercation, Claudius manages to set up a duel. And what is a duel? Where two persons fight one to one without any additional support, and it goes on till one accepts defeat or death. Now, the final part of the play unfolds. On the day of the duel, Claudius has a backup plan. He poisons the tip of Laertes' sword so that the moment Laertes stabs Hamlet or wounds him in any way, Hamlet would be poisoned. But what if this plan fails? He has plan B. He also prepares a glass of wine where he drops a poisonous pearly substance. That if Hamlet is not killed by Laertes, at least Hamlet would be killed by the wine he drinks. But Hamlet does not drink that wine. His mother, she didn't know about the poisoned wine. When she offers him a drink before the duel, he says, I will not drink now. Gertrude drinks that instead. Claudius stops her, tries to stop her, but too late. So Gertrude drinks at least some portion of the wine. Meanwhile, Hamlet goes on to fight with Laertes. And during the fight, the heat of the moment, Laertes pricks him, and there is also an exchange of sword. And Hamlet also pricks Laertes with that same poisoned sword. Laertes, who knows about this poisoning, he tells Hamlet that both of them are going to die because of that poisoned tip, and Claudius is responsible. Hamlet, who is now holding Laertes' poisoned sword in his hand, he sees that his mother has collapsed. Laertes is dying, and he's about to die in another 30 minutes. And now, no more delay for him. He goes and stabs Claudius. And not just that, he forces him to drink the remaining portion of that poison wine. And he actually asks Claudius to follow Gertrude into hell, of course. Hamlet dies. In fact, everybody dies, starting from Polonius, Ophelia, Laertes, Gertrude, Claudius, Hamlet himself. We hardly have anybody to tell us the story, right? Except Horatio, who has been a good friend to Hamlet, tried to show him reason at times. He remains unkilled. Hamlet knows that when he dies, Denmark will again fall into chaos. He doesn't want that. So it is Hamlet who wants Fortinbras to be his successor. Fortinbras, the Prince of Norway, who had also lost his father. Fortinbras enters the castle with his soldiers. Horatio tells him about what has happened. The entire Danish family is dead. After knowing everything, Fortinbras accepts his position as the future king of Denmark, and he rather orders everybody to treat Hamlet's body as the body of a soldier. And drums and cannons mark the end of the play. So while personal revenge has destroyed everyone, we see a kind of life must go on thing happens. It always happens with Shakespeare. A kind of a political order is restored, and the story of Hamlet survives through Horatio's words. Well, the play ends. The questions do not. Was Hamlet really mad? How much of his madness was acting? How much of his madness was real? Was he really in love with Ophelia? Did Gertrude not know anything about Claudius's intention? Was Hamlet angry with his mother only because of her remarriage? Some answers are never obtained openly or easily from the text. But still, I'll try to go through the whole text with you as a series, starting from Act 1, Scene 1, like we have done with Macbeth. I'll try to skip as little as possible to cover as much text as possible so that by the end of this series, we can at least approach the text with confidence and not get lost in 1001 stories about Hamlet. So I'll see you all in my next video where we will straight away go to the first scene of the first act of Hamlet by William Shakespeare. Till then, stay connected, stay subscribed, have a wonderful new year. This is Monami Mukherjee signing off. Bye bye.